the only economy that actually matters is your economy, meaning your household economy. That's the only one that matters, and the only one that can influence that is yourself. Financial planning is not financial planning.
Yeah.
It's life planning,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And so it's everything that you can think of in your life is what we help coach and counsel people around. What do they say? Comparison is the thief of joy, right? You can continue to compare against a generation. Oh, they had it easier. Deferred reward, right?
Yes.
Deferred reward, which I think generationally is something that is a little lost now. Everything starts with culture. Everything starts with culture.
You're listening to Beyond Growth with Rayan Fernando.
Jay, welcome.
Thanks, Rayan.
Good to have you on Beyond Growth, mate. It's nice to be on the other side of the chair with me hosting you this time.
Yeah, well, you're returning the favour.
Yes.
It's nice to catch up whenever it was, a little while ago, but not too long ago. So it's nice to be answering some questions rather than asking the questions.
Yes. But try and keep, well, obviously, if you have any questions, shoot them through. Try and keep it conversational. But great to have you on board. I'm managing director of Burke Financial Partners, and I always like to kick off with asking my guests their backstory, their origin story. I'd love to share yours because you've sort of been in the game, so to speak, for 24 plus years, right? That's
2001. So 2001. How far do you want me to go back, Rayan? It's
far as you feel like going back.
Yeah. So let me go back. So I've always been in Geelong. I was actually born in Melbourne, but always in Geelong. I went to school around the area where our office is in Geelong West. Went to Manifold Heights Primary School.
Oh, cool.
Father was a PE teacher. He left PE teaching and got into financial planning. So that was that was the origination of that being in the sort of the family. I went to school at Western Heights, or West Tech as it was back then, and then went to uni at Deakin Geelong, but had no intention of getting into financial planning.
What'd you study?
Well, I studied health science. So I wanted to be a physio.
Yep.
And my marks didn't dictate that I'd be able to get into physio. I think the ANTA score or the TER back then was the equivalent of medicine. It was like 99, and I was just not in the game for that at all. So,
wow, yeah.
And physio was all the rage when I was growing up, and growing up in a sporting family, everything was sort of phys ed, fitness, footy, cricket, and so physiotherapy seemed like the right approach. And didn't get into that. I had a mate who said, "Let's just go and do health science," and health science was then nursing. So it was I got into it with the view that I'd do as a mature age transfer over into physio.
Yep.
It didn't happen. So after doing a 4-year degree, a 3-year degree over 4 years, I graduated with a health science degree and actually worked at St John of God in the private hospital in oncology, orthopedics. Was there for 2 or 3 years. Did my grad year as a nurse there. And then family circumstances dictated that, so my parents were starting a financial planning business, so in sort of 2001.
Yep.
My father had he was an employed financial advisor, was planning to start a financial planning business on his own with my mother. And at the same time, my older brother passed away suddenly. And it was kind of just all hands on deck. Like they were starting a business, a lot of chaos around my older brother passing away. He left a young family, so a young child that my parents ended up sort of inheriting or looking after. And so there was just a lot of turmoil in the family at that point, which meant I needed to help out. So I started helping out just with the sort of the mechanics of the business to begin with. This was 2001, July of 2001. Within 12 months, I went, I don't think I'll go back to nursing. I think I'm going to stay in financial planning.
Yeah.
And that was the origin story of me getting into sort of financial services and financial planning. And the rest of it, although it's a decent history, the rest of that is in history. It's been financial planning, financial services that entire time. And from 2001 to now, we've grown the business and shrunk the business and grown the business. And I've grown a family, so father of 5, and where we are today, very, very proud to look at the business where it is today. And after sort of 24 years, as you said, 24 years in operation, it's been a bit of a journey.
It is, man. I saw when I popped in, you introduced me to a team It does, like when you sort of enter your office, you kind of don't get the grasp of how big the team is, but then you walk in the back, and you're like, wow, there's a massive team back there, right? So it's at the moment, what's the head count at the moment?
I think Amy said this morning we're 19, but 19. Some of those are out of the office, so they're a remote team. So we've got a team. Some admin support out of the Philippines. So we've got a team in Manila, and we've also got some remote, what we call paraplanners. So paraplanners are the ones that are responsible for putting together the sort of advice construction modelling that the advisors, any advice has to be documented. That's the paraplanners. So 19 strong, but we were, so going back to sort of 2010, we were, I think, circa 35 headcount.
Yeah.
After a couple of big mergers and acquisitions, or more acquisitions than mergers. And that was a kind of a baptism of fire, early days in growing your business to, as we've talked about previously, this idea of sort of managing growth and scale and people. And I think I've learnt a lot over the journey over the last sort of 24 years on what works. I've made every mistake in the book. I've made it, so you can ask me all the things that we've. There's many more things that we've done wrong than we've done right, but I think it's probably what set us up for the next phase of business growth.
A lot to unpack.
Yeah.
Look, I just love seeing a business that's been run, over a couple of decades now, but also just curious as to your, being in Geelong all your life, and you've got services you offer in Melbourne, I think in Shepparton as well. What do you love about Geelong?
Well, Geelong's a great place for a couple of reasons. It's still a country town, even though Geelong has grown exponentially over the course of the last 20 years, or even since I was a young kid, going to primary school at Manifold Heights. That Geelong has grown a lot, but it still has that country feel, that country mentality, which means that everyone knows everyone. There's like a half a degree of separation between people, which is amazing if you're doing the right thing by people and you're doing the right thing in business. It's not so great if you don't do the right thing by people, because people very quickly get a sense of who you are and what you do. And that's probably that element's probably led us to apply some of those same principles in the Golden Valley, so where we operate in Shepparton, and we have operated up there since 2007. Same sort of country feel, country mentality, and most of the Melbourne clients that we look after are probably Geelong and Shepparton expats. They're ones that have migrated to the big smoke. But most of our clientele are sort of regional based.
Yeah, that's awesome. And look, I've been here for 25 years, and still sort of think about the days when I moved in. I thought, man, Geelong's just, back in like 2000 when I moved, it felt like a lot more country than it is now. But it's just amazing how much it's grown. Like, it's just expanded so much. It seems like you think there's a limit, but it just keeps going, Geelong, which is awesome. And look, with going to Shepparton, was that through acquisition? Like you mentioned, the three major acquisitions you did, short time span. Was that through acquisition that you sort of stepped in there? How did that work for you?
Yeah, so it was an acquisition. So we're part of originally we were part of the AMP network, so licensed through AMP. AMP was the biggest financial services provider in the country. So long legacy of the Australian Mutual and Provident Society. So a lot of sort of the baby boomer clients and beyond will remember AMP from sort of early days of them growing up. They're predominantly an insurance business back in the early 1900s, and grew into a sort of a superannuation and investment management business, if you like, and had lots of regional centres. So they had regional networks that advisors then operated out of. And then sometime around sort of the late 90s, a lot of those employed advisors became self-employed, and AMP gave them an opportunity to essentially buy their book of clients.
Oh, okay.
And so that happened sort of the late 90s, and then you had a bit of an exodus of financial advisors that had been around the industry for a long time, and they essentially were selling their books. And so we had a relationship with an existing business and business owner up in Shepparton with a business called Secure Life. And Secure Life was predominantly, it was a very agricultural focused business, a lot of farmers, and lots of, I suppose, old wealth in that region. And was very similar to our business in the sense that we were regionally focused, very relationship focused, and it was what seemed, at least on paper, it seemed like a very neat fit to actually bring those two businesses together. So had all the ambition in the world as I think it was 2007. If you remember 2007, and not too long after that, there was a thing called the global financial crisis, the subprime mortgage collapse. The way we actually bought that business was essentially based upon the revenue it generated, and the revenue it generated was directly proportional to the assets under advice. So overnight, essentially within 6 months of buying that business, the business was worth a third of what it was when we bought it. So that was a pretty big baptism of fire when you're sort of growing. You got ambition to grow a business. Your bottom line, you lose 2/3 off your bottom line. Yeah.
How'd you deal through that? How like talk us through that stages?
Well, again, it was this idea of like ambition. Your ambition was very quickly woken up with reality. You know, what you thought you could do versus what would happen in reality. And risk mitigation now it's funny because I think now about everything that informs how I provide advice to clients. A big part of that is now around risk mitigation, like looking at the things that externally that I can spot in clients that they wouldn't otherwise see. So I get business owners that come to me with great ideas and passion and vigor, but don't really think about all the things that potentially could go wrong. And sometimes it can be looked on as like pessimistic to be thinking about all the things that could go wrong. But if I look back now with the benefit of hindsight, and we could have done much better due diligence on what was happening in the markets. We could have done a much better job of having clauses in our purchase agreement for sort of roll-off cover or being able to sort of revise a contract over a period of time. We didn't do that, and so what we ended up doing is having to really just roll the sleeves up and say, okay, well, what I intended to be a business that worked autonomously was a business that I had to travel up to probably 3-4 days a week for a couple of years.
Oh, wow. So,
and really just bed down relationships, make sure that we bedded down our systems and processes, and this. You talked to me on the last podcast about, and you might have to correct me with the tool, the delegate
and elevate.
Delegate and elevate. And in our terminology, it's this idea of decentralized command. Decentralized command is essentially the idea of finding the things that other people can do that, you know, they're better served doing. And it's a really attractive and a really appealing thing to think, I'd love to have a business where everyone else does the work and I can just manage things. But the problem is that we try to jump straight to that step.
100%.
Like we try to jump straight to that. So we had a team up there. We had a team up in Shepparton. We had 3 advisors, probably similar amount of support staff. And I thought, we'll buy the business. They'll run independently. We'll just influence them from a distance, you know, from Geelong. We'll be able to embed our systems and processes. And very quickly you realise that even though we thought on paper there was a great synergy between the two businesses, were very, very different, different culturally.
I was going to ask that,
huge difference culturally. Like Shepparton is, on face value, looks similar to Geelong. It's regional, but the reality is it's actually a very different business, maybe even more casual and relaxed than Geelong is. So in orders of magnitude, more relaxed than the likes of Melbourne, both clients and also business. But you know, it was a lesson in. It was humbling that you know, you can have a great idea, but if you don't actually sort of articulate that idea and have a mechanism or a process to embed it, particularly in a business, a remote business, like I think back now and go, it was pretty ballsy to think we could go and spend a few $1 million on a business and it would just function. Yeah. And but anyway, I look back now as probably one of the best things that actually happened to us as a business. But also for me as a business owner, some of the lessons learned out of that are ones that I don't think I'll repeat again in the future.
And it's those ones that no one can even tell you not to do, because you sort of need to do it and learn yourself as well.
You have to. It doesn't look the same when you hear someone talk about it. You got to feel it. You got to feel the pain of going, what do we do now? Like, what do we do now that our revenue, 2/3 of our revenue's gone? I've still got the borrowing for actually gone and bought that business. I've got to service that. I've got to make sure clients who are at the peak hysteria of the markets, needing support. And so I literally had to just roll the sleeves up. So the likes of Delta, who's still with us now, Delta and I used to head up there regularly and just get in front of clients. And again, look back now and go, some of the best relationships I built were in those couple of years when it was
because you showed up. It
was chaotic, but we were in front of clients and we're here for them. And at the same time, we were doing things like we had to change our service model overnight. Like we had to embed what was a business based upon what we call like trail revenue. Trail revenue was where you get paid a fee based upon the assets that you have. Again, you're then subject to all the market fluctuations. So if the market goes up, we do better. Market goes down, which it did a lot, or in a big way in 2007, 2008, our revenue suffered. So we were embedding like a genuine service offering, like a fee for service. So we deliver a set service for a set fee, and that was totally new to the people in regional Victoria and the Golden Valley. So combine all of those things at the same time. So people management, changing our service offering, market conditions. I was growing a family at the same time. Yeah, and it was a great. I look back now and go, it was a great time. A great time that actually set up the success that we have today.
That's awesome. And I think it's, you think of it, as much as it was probably hard to do the traveling and be in front of people, but that would have helped so much in sort of just getting that team and that culture going in the right direction for you by being there, right? Because otherwise that arm's reach comfort factor would have been almost a negative in the other way, just not being able to get in front of people as quickly and then having that separation with the two businesses.
Yeah, it was imperative, and it probably should have been the thing that we had agreed to do from the outset. We should have had in mind from the outset. That should have been part of our rollout plan that we were there more frequently from day dot. It was forced upon us, and I think again with the benefit of hindsight, it was good. I mean, anyone out there buying a business and thinking that they can just do it without being belly to belly to some degree with the staff that they have there and the clients, I think you probably got to think a little more deeply about that, because the risk is that that business will develop its own culture, that regional office or that business will continue to develop its own culture, and they'll go off in their own direction, which is probably not going to be in the direction you want it to be.
No, that's it. And you see it all the time, especially in the IT space, the technology space. There's been so much M&A activity over the last 5 years. But you see that where those remote offices quickly either wrap up or just, this unhappiness in those remote offices. Yeah. So, no, it's good. And look, 18 years on, going absolutely strong. And like you said, such a good learning curve for yourself and to get the business in the right direction. So how big's the team in Shep at the moment?
So we have zero in Shepparton.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So the
but that's okay. Keep going.
It's by design.
Yeah,
so this was one of the sort of the evolutions of the business that we realised. Like early days, so 2007, 2008, we were already starting to try to integrate remote office capability. So we were using, not very effectively, but using Skype for...
How good was Skype?
Yeah, well, it was pretty sketchy. The cameras were pretty ordinary.
It was pretty bad.
Yeah. But we did things like... so this is nearly 20 years ago. So everyone had webcams.
Yeah.
Skype was very sketchy, but we also bought clients' webcams as well.
Oh, cool.
So we started... And listen, it was hit and miss. Like, it was probably... Even the staff up there, they were very reluctant to use it. But it started getting us thinking about... how much do we actually need to be client-facing, meaning physically there? And again, this is a bit of a contradiction, right? Because I just said that you want to be belly to belly, but we also started to work out, well, how much could we actually integrate remote work with being there face-to-face? And gradually over time, we still see clients face-to-face, but we give clients now the option. And we've got clients now that have been seeing us remotely for 20 years. And
wow.
So they've been on board in that early journey from 2007, 2008. They're used to us. So we obviously were face-to-face with them early, and then built enough trust and confidence with them that they can then pick and choose. And a lot of clients will now pick. I'm quite happy to see you remotely, Jay. I've met you before. It's not like the first time we meet is online. But yeah, we'd have a completely remote office. We essentially hot desk out of a couple of offices in Shepparton, and someone from our office, so the advisors are there probably between sort of every 2 to 3 weeks. So there's advisors in the office. Mm-hmm. We had a golf day the other day. We took up.
I saw it on your socials. Yeah.
So we took up about there's probably 8 of the team from Geelong. We took up. So there's the clients are still very, very connected to us, and I think we have the best balance of being available for them face to face, but they also know they're not concerned at all that our head office is on the corner of Gordon Avenue and Packington Street in Geelong. Yeah. In fact, we encourage them to come down and see us here if they want to as well. And same with our Melbourne clients, and same with all of our interstate clients. It's I think it is, if you manage it well, it is just the way. You need to embrace technology today. It's a no-brainer.
But on top of that, I suppose that early work in that space would have really set you up for what we all faced in 2020, right? So everyone went to work from home.
Yeah,
we all went to lockdown, especially in Victoria, but you were probably on the front foot there.
No, absolutely. And listen, I think about the businesses that suffered during COVID, and many of them were my clients who had, retail offices, gymnasiums, and were hugely impacted. We didn't blink. Like, in fact, business for us didn't change at all. I just said,
that's unreal.
And we were able to just turn the tap off because people were already working from home. We'd already had the flexibility of being able to work remotely with clients. And when we said to them, listen, it's only going to be remote for a period of time until we know what the hell's going on, it wasn't a big shift at all. They were used to it. They were comfortable with it previously. And even with the team, like the ability to be able to pick the team up and just work them from home, we already had that capacity.
That's awesome.
And one of the interesting things about financial services, and I think it's one of the reasons why I like the industry, is that it doesn't matter what's happening in the industry. It doesn't matter what's happening in the market. Like, if the market's good, people are interested about getting some of the goodness. They want to have what their friends got in terms of the market returns. If the things are bad, then people are either worried or they're opportunistic and they want to actually take the opportunity to invest. So market's up, market's down, people are still coming and talking to us. When things are bad, generally people think about risk and they worry. So things like insurance and protection and estate planning comes to people's mind. Against a little bit morbid, but when we're talking about death and family, it brings into play all of the things that we offer as terms of services, and that's why our industry is pretty resilient in spite of lots of challenges over the last decade, like with regulation. We're in an industry that it doesn't matter, like whether we're talking insurance, estate planning, taxation, accounting, investment management, super, property. Where a good financial advisor is at the forefront of all of those decisions in a client or a family group's life. So, it's I love it, as you can tell, mate.
No, mate, yeah, we've had a few chats, and this is the most, excited you've been. Don't take that the wrong way.
It's all good.
But no, it's good. I'm glad that you love it. I think that's really important. And something you talked about before was those deep connections you made, right? So with the team in Shep, the clients in Shep and around Australia. But those connections are so valuable, right? Like you mentioned before, it's all about not necessarily helping a couple out. It's how do you help the whole family, right? That's the ultimate thing, because I think you mentioned when your brother passed away and his child had to be looked after, it really changed your thoughts on and your mindset on financial planning and how important it is. Yeah. Because people just don't worry about it as much as they should, but they need the advice.
Financial planning, I've said this so many times. If people listen to my podcast, they'll go, here he goes again. But financial planning is not financial planning.
Yeah.
It's life planning.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And so it's everything that you can think of in your life is what we help coach and counsel people around. And again, my first introduction to sort of financial planning was just my parents encouraging some self-discipline around investing. Right? They were both smart enough to say, you should start early and often. So small amounts regularly over a long period of time will set you up.
Yeah.
And as kids, they got us investing early and matching contributions for investments, things like that. And then my first real exposure to life, if you like, was losing a brother, and all of the implications that came around that. Looking at loss of not only a family member, but the financial implications that reverberates through everyone from kids to parents having to step in and help and contribute. So I look back now at all of those kind of life experiences of business acquisition and failure, loss of family members, and they all now inform every conversation I have with a client. Like, I've got the back catalogue of experiences. Even myself as I'm a business owner. I'm a father of 5. My wife's had her own online businesses for many, many years. All of those influences and experiences now inform, that's what 25 years worth of failing allows you to do, is offer great experience and counsel to others who are going through similar experiences. And that's essentially what I'm doing as a financial advisor, financial coach, similar to what you do with sort of business owners and sort of coaching and counselling them. We're doing the same with family groups and business owners as well.
No, absolutely. And I guess I want to break it up, because I must admit, it's, I'm sort of in my 40s. My financial planning is just a whole bunch of Googling or life planning. But I suppose, where do people begin? I suppose, I'm sort of going to play the client at the moment. Where do I begin? So I've sort of got this business. We've got a couple of online businesses as well, a bit of property, that sort of stuff. But we just, where do you start the conversation, and what do you start to plan for?
Well, I think first of all, the conversation doesn't happen unless someone has got some self-interest or some sort of motivation themselves personally to do something. For most people, there's a trigger event somewhere in their life that forces them to, it could be the death of a loved one. It could be I'm starting a business. It could be I'm about to go and buy a property. I want to start a self-managed super fund. I've just took on some more debt and I need insurance. There'll be generally one entry point that people will come. It'll be the trigger event for people to come and see us. And so I think the first thing is people need to be curious about their own circumstances. Many people that will, have no real interest, or they're happy to sort of self-manage their own affairs, and that's totally fine, because financial advisors aren't for everyone. But when I'm seeing someone for the first time, they might come to see me with a view that, they're buying an investment property. Yeah. That's what they want to do. And my methodology is to sort of understand the why. It's as you would do in business terms. You're trying to work out what's the motivation here. What are we actually trying to achieve? What are we pointing at? You want to buy an investment property because your next door neighbour has got one, or is this for retirement? So this is a pool of funds to help you fund an early retirement. Are you looking for tax planning? And so once we start to unpack those things, we start to identify that what the client actually came to us with initially, which was I want to buy an investment property, is actually just maybe the symptom of their objectives, what they want to achieve in their life. Yeah. So our job is to try, and most people find this really difficult, as I'm sure you can probably correlate this to from a business point of view. It's actually quite hard. People sometimes need help to unpack where they're headed. So they might have an idea, but they haven't been able to verbalize exactly what their plan for the future is. They've maybe find it difficult to sort of quantify in dollar terms or time frame when they want those things. So part of our job as financial advisors is to sort of unpack what people want, take their own words and sort of relay it back to them as this is what we're hearing you say, and then try to put that into some form of time bound, dollar bound, when are we going to retire? How much are we going to need? We're going to buy an investment property. How much do we need? When do we want it? And every single client is very, very different. I mean, that's I suppose the beauty of our business is that I get to deal with people that are different in every respect. But it's as I said before, it's an exciting industry for those people that like dealing with problem solving.
That is it, isn't it? That's what you're trying to do. You're trying to solve their financial goal problem, like not necessarily problem, but their financial goals. What's the one thing people underestimate? Because I've got my parents who have no plan for retirement, which I feel like means it's my plan. My plan is for their retirement. How couple of questions. How much do people underestimate how much they need to retire? Because I feel like that's something I've gone through personally from like myself and my wife. We sort of sat there and went like, how much do we want? What do we need to have, in the bank and coming in through either property or shares or whatever it is. I feel like they sit there and you start to add it up and all of a sudden you're like, wow, is 100K a year enough? Do you need 200K? What's the lifestyle you want to maintain? How many trips do you want to do? Yeah. There's so many aspects to it, isn't there?
There's a bunch of aspects, and we could unpack this for a while, but let me try to sort of narrow the focus down. Like the first thing is most people don't know what it costs them to live.
Yeah.
Like they have no idea of what it actually costs them to live the lifestyle they want to live.
And it's lifestyle, and that's the key word, isn't it?
Well, it's lifestyle. It's the lifestyle they want to live, but included in the lifestyle they want to live are all of the non-discretionary things that you have to have. Like we all have sort of fixed expenses that are pretty easy to predict. The thing that people underestimate is all of the discretionary items. So what are the things that what is that lifestyle? Do you want to go to Europe every year? As early as you possibly can, trying to work out what that figure is, because that figure ultimately informs what you're going to need. So I said before, trying to work out a dollar quantity and a time frame. If we work out that someone needs, you work out what your cost of living is today and the lifestyle, you go, it's $120,000 a year lifestyle. You go, okay, well let's fast forward that to retirement, and what drops out of that? Well, if you've got a mortgage, hopefully we're mortgage free by the time we're 60, and if you've got kids, maybe the kids' education costs drop out. We can get a fairly good read on what that level might be. Let's just say it's $90,000 a year. In really rudimentary terms, if you need $90,000 a year in retirement and you're trying to self-fund this yourself, well, we probably need circa $1.5 million in investable assets generating 6% a year, which gives us $90,000 a year. Does that make sense? Yeah. Now, there's heaps of variables in that. That assumes that people want to maintain that $1.5 million forever. One of the interesting things, I did a podcast last week with Ben, one of our other senior advisors, and we sort of unpacked this same question of what are we underestimating when we think about how much we're going to need in retirement. And you mentioned it just before, that when I do that simple calculation on what you need for your lifestyle, what it doesn't account for is that your parents, right, and you're the sandwich generation like me, right? So you're in the middle generation where you're thinking up towards parents and you're thinking down towards kids, and you're thinking, I'm going to need to financially support both of them.
Yeah.
So I'm potentially that $90,000 as an example. I need the income to support the lifestyle that I want to live, but actually I might need to help mum and dad into aged care. And actually I might need to help the kids into a property because the property prices are going through the roof. So all of a sudden that calculation that we did that was based upon what do you need to maintain your lifestyle, I've noticed of the last few years we're having to expand that estimate of what people need to include maybe support of parents, maybe support of kids, and that's quite unique. I think the cost of living pressures now on people mean that there's much more pressure to work out like how you support intergenerational wealth, so up and down, and I think that's quite unique because of the cost of living pressures that are now apply to people. And it just means that the best time to start planning these things is not 5 years before you retire. Like I had a meeting with a client last night who is the son of a long-standing client, and he's 24, right? But we're starting early. Like we're starting early with them and talking to them about how much they're going to need, not only in the next 5 years, 10 years, but when they're 60 and 65. So starting early, starting often, and what do people underestimate? It comes down to cash flow and what level of income they're actually genuinely going to need to support themselves, but also their family.
That is, that's literally something that keeps me up at night. I sit there and sort of plan it out, and sort of I've set goals for the next 3 to 7 years based on that mindset of going like, okay, it can't just be me. It's not like my family only, sort of see this wider net that I need, a wider family I need to potentially support. And it is daunting, isn't it? And I think it's a bit scary when, I suppose, like you said, people will keep it for too long. Like if you're 5 years away from retiring and you have no assets, so you really...
Yeah, compounding doesn't work well over 5 years.
No.
The magic of compounding works best when it's over decades.
Yeah.
Definitely decades is what you want to be doing in terms of your planning.
Yeah. And you mentioned you had one of your long-standing clients, sons calling you, and or children calling you to have a chat. That's quite unique, isn't it? Like, from a business point of view, to be able to deal with 3 different generations of sometimes in the same family. Like,
well, this is our point of difference, Rayan.
Yeah.
This is us. This is Burke Britain. So we're a family. We provide family group advice, and financial planning historically is very transactional. It's a little bit like relationships and networking. People have a sense that you want to that a transactional approach is best, whether it be in networking where you're trying to get something out of that person, or if it's a client, you just want to sell them a super and insurance policy, get paid for that and move on. What I know from experience is that every relationship counts, and I treat clients in that same way, that you want to foster those relationships, and those relationships then lead to opportunities to speak to many more clients. And family group advice means that I think far beyond just let's say the investment fund or the super fund that I set up for a client. I'm thinking of all the things that sit around that. I'm thinking about their estate plan, which inevitably leads me to thinking about their kids. I'm thinking of all the professionals that sit around that client support. I'm thinking about the accountant that will help manage their tax position. I'm thinking about the mortgage broker that's going to set up the loan structure for them. And this is, again, I urge anyone to try to go out and find a financial services business that does it as well as we do, in terms of connecting all the dots around a family group and making sure that we support all of it. And again, it's our secret sauce, and I'm happy to tell people that it's our secret sauce, because people still won't do it.
No.
People still won't actually interact with the kids of their clients. They won't go out of the way to actually connect with their accountant and their solicitor and their mortgage broker. They just don't do it. We do, and that's one of the reasons why we continue to grow significantly over the last few years.
That's fantastic. And I mean, I'll look at that generation sort of heading into into the 20s in the next 5 to 10 years. They seem like they're a little bit more disenfranchised as to what their options are. Like, I remember coming into my 20s, 2000s-ish, and just going like, yep, get a job, save money, buy a house. Like, that was literally me, my wife and I, that's all we wanted to do. We sort of saved, bought a block of land, paid it off for a bit, built a house while we saved. And it was a real challenge, but that's kind of what we did. But I feel like it was still affordable, like 20 something years ago. Like, you could actually go, it kind of like, how much you earned correlated to how much the cost of the house was, right? But people coming to the housing market now, it just seems like it's so far away. But I feel like that's almost more reason to have a chat to someone like yourself and go like, okay, how do we achieve this? Because it does feel like they're miles away from that goal, and it's almost easier not to start.
Yeah. It's funny when I think about that comment of, I did another podcast where I said, is it really harder to get into a property market than it was 20 years ago? Or have we just convinced ourselves that that's the case? And I think it's both. Like, I think it's both things. I think there's a lot of sort of confirmation bias in just social media. Like, kids are constantly now told.
Yeah.
Like, they're just told it's super expensive and you can't afford it, and it used to be way easier. They have no context on the past. So they're literally just picking up what they've heard in social media. Now, the reality is, yes, like the property prices as a multiple of the average income has definitely increased. But life changes all the time, right? Every generation is different. And I think, what do they say? Comparison is the thief of joy, right? You can continue to compare against a generation and, oh, they had it easier. You're in this generation right now. You've got the tools and you've got the skills. And this is probably one of the ethos that I sort of encourage of our younger clients, because it's the sort of the principles and the values that we abide by as a business, and that is sort of individual personal responsibility. Like, you can blame previous generations, you can blame inflation, you can blame the government, you can blame property prices, you can blame immigration, whatever. There's plenty of things to blame, but the only economy that actually matters is your economy, meaning your household economy. That's the only one that matters, and the only one that can influence that is yourself.
Just give me 30 seconds. If your business is serious about certification and trust, you need to know about ISO 365. They make ISO compliance simple, practical, and sustainable by building your ISO systems inside the Microsoft 365 tools you already use. No extra software, no hidden licenses, just real control and ownership of your compliance. I love the work that ISO 365 does because they don't just hand you templates and walk away. They become part of your team as virtual compliance officers, guiding you from gap assessment through to certification and long-term compliance. If you want compliance that actually works for your business and helps you win trust and new contracts, check out ISO 365. And now back to the show.
So, same podcast I did last week, we talked about kids staying at home for longer. Cool. Kids are needing to stay at home for longer. And as a father who's got 5 kids, I'm quite happy for the kids to stay home longer. But there's a caveat to that. The caveat to that is that the expectation, if you're home for longer, is that you make effective use of the income that you have, so that when you are out in the market, you can afford to start a business, buy your first home. And I know there again, some of the principles that my parents embedded into me was that, the discipline, the self-discipline to start early, invest often, don't complain about what you don't have. Focus on what you do have and try to make the most effective use of it. And I try to apply that to all of the sort of younger generation that come to see us, whether they be kids of our existing clients or whether they come and see us fresh off the street. I say this is like the only person that can control your situation is you. So as soon as you give away control to an external influence, whether it be, like I said, the government or another generation, it's now out of your control, and your brain's going to tell you there's nothing I can do about it. Whereas, there's everything you can do about it. You just got to take the impetus to do something.
Everything you just said is the more reason why people should be speaking to you, Jay, because I think, they need to hear it like that, don't they? And in saying that, as much as it seemed easier, we did live in like a shoebox.
Yeah.
We were paying and we weren't going out for meals. We weren't, it wasn't like we were going for coffees and lattes. We weren't having smashed avo on the weekend. Like, it was literally just like, we watching every dollar. So we did it by the thing you said there, which is discipline, right?
Well, it was probably a little bit forced.
It was quite forced.
Yeah, it was forced discipline. I like the concept of deferred reward, right?
Yes.
Deferred reward, which I think generationally is something that is a little lost now. I use the example of lay-by, right? It used to be...
How good was lay-by?
Yeah, well,
I just love it.
You know what the great thing about lay-by was that the pain was up front, right? The pain was... you had to make your incremental payment. So anyone who doesn't know what lay-by is, you'd actually pay off...
Reverse afterpay.
Exactly. So, but what do we got now? You've got afterpay, like, where you get all of the reward early, and the pain comes later.
Yeah.
And it's just inverse. It's us about, and I think if people would go back to, like most things, if you get the reward up front and the pain later, it should be inverse. You should be thinking about, I need to have the pain up front. I've got to do the hard work. I've got to have the discipline to put in place systems and processes and structures. So this applies to your household. This applies to you as an individual, as an investor. It's the same with business. You know, hoping that the business is just going to fly. is very different than actually putting in the hard work to put in place a strategy and systems and processes that actually help you get there incrementally over time. But the pain in most instances is worth the end result.
Absolutely, and I think that's sometimes lost these days. And
geez, we're sounding old in our 40s, mate. Saying these days,
look, it's like that though. I sort of look at things, and there's so much I miss. And I look at my kids, and this is just not necessarily financial stuff, but my kids are young, and they just don't have time. They don't have any boring time. Like they just it's literally. There's something they can do constantly. And I remember growing up, I think we called it mindfulness back in the day, but we literally had time where we just looked out a window, or we sat in a bus, or
we created a whole industry of mindfulness, which is just what we did.
We
had nothing to do. So I'll just sit and
think. Yeah, imagine,
think I'll go and climb a tree and just play with sticks, dig a hole.
Yeah, I know what I mean. And I feel like, call me old, but but that's one thing I wish my kids had that. They've just got something to keep them occupied all the time. And I know that's partly my fault as well, and for providing some of that stuff. But it's got a situation where we cut back as much as we can. But man, I worry what they're going to be like as adults who just want things so quickly, but it's just not going to be there.
Yep. I've had the same worry, and I think all you can do is be a great role model. And it's a little bit, I apply these same principles to the kids as I do to clients. Sometimes you just got to model things, and when they're ready, they will say, I'm ready now. And sometimes it won't be when, I can tell my kids till I'm blue in the face, what they should do, but it's not until I see them interact with other people and I go, there it is. There's the politeness, there's the humility, or there's the respectfulness that they might not display to me because I'm dad.
Yes.
But if I can model that as much as I possibly can, then they will do as I do, not as I say.
Yeah.
So if it's just modeling behaviours, and
that's
again, similarly with business, you got to model the behaviours in business that you want your clients to implement. So if I'm a financial delinquent, then I'm not a great example for my clients. But it's like those life experiences I talk about, where if you can show clients that I've modelled those behaviours of good business management and good financial management, they will model themselves at some point.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. And look, one shout out to my son anyway. He absolutely loves saving and he literally hounds us for how much interest did I get this month? I'm like, wow, okay, that's good. And he's 11.
Yeah.
That I didn't have at his age. So I guess there's some positives there. One thing I want to ask, so financial planning and as a financial partner, we touched on a few different things, but what are some of often areas that people don't know that you do? Because, looking at the stuff you've got on your website, you cover a huge gamut of areas, right? From like you said, life planning. Yeah.
Well, I think one of the things that we've done poorly as an industry is explain to people what we do, right? Because there is the breadth of what financial planning is it can be quite extensive. Historically, financial planning has been super and insurance. So most people know if you need some support with your super or insurance, you go and see a financial advisor. That would be my interpretation of what people envisage financial planning is. What they don't necessarily understand that we do is, doesn't matter whether someone's got a lot or a little of money, cash flow management, whether it be in a business, so the ability to help people sort of manage cash flow. In my mind, cash flow is probably the cornerstone of any decision you make in any financial decision you make in your life comes down to, can you afford to do it or not? So a lot of people don't understand that we actually will help people, small or large business owners or individuals, help manage their and sort of coach and counsel them around their cash flow. The other thing, which is probably more so of recent time, is around sort of investment management. So historically, financial planning arguably has been a set and forget mentality. So people will go and put money in their superannuation and it's a set and forget. Probably the biggest growing part of our business at the moment has been where we're actively managing people's investment portfolio. So we're actually helping them decide what to buy, what to sell at any particular time. And maybe of more recent time, and this is probably more indicative of the aging population, helping a lot of clients, well, like yourself and myself with aging parents, we're actually helping them with decisions around support in the home, aged care, and managing that sort of, it's back to sort of family planning, managing the sort of succession of wealth from one generation to the next. And whenever we start to talk about intergenerational wealth transfer, we're ultimately talking about things like estate planning, sort of death and dying. Most people think I go to my solicitor to get my will done. They don't actually, they don't draw the parallel between financial planning. So I like to say that, like, we spend a lot of time growing people's wealth, but we also need to protect it as well, and that means making sure that it goes to the right people at the right time in the event of death or disability. And so that is probably one of the things that people don't really understand, is that I'm not a solicitor. I'm not going to write your will for you, but I'll be helping and guiding how you actually protect your assets and make sure they go to the right people at the right time.
Awesome. And so, it says you're a certified financial planner.
Yes.
And like you said, there's a lot of changes in the industry. There's a lot of different legislations that comes through. How does your team sort of keep yourself abreast of all that stuff? Because I feel like it can be easy to not be across, changes that come through from a self-managed super fund, for example, or some sort of taxation changes.
Yeah, so our industry is about as heavily regulated as any industry there is, and a lot of change occurred in the last decade that means that there are very, very strict requirements around continuing professional development. So we're mandated, like any other profession, whether it be doctors or lawyers, as a mandatory component of continuing professional development. And this is one of the things that the industry itself has tried to bed down. Just a bit of a side note, over the course of the last sort of probably 5 years, something circa 60% of advisors have left the industry. The reason for that is because the education requirements to actually stay in the industry have risen greatly. And so it's been a really good filter mechanism, because what it leaves behind is those advisors that are highly educated. They actually want to be in the industry. They're actually happy to continue to do personal development and professional development. And I think in totality, it is a great thing for people wanting to go and get advice. The cowboys, in large part, are gone, and what's left are people that are highly educated, highly skilled. We still, like in our practice, for example, we still have quite niche specialty areas. So aged care is, for anyone out there that's got parents, you'll be already starting to have the thought around, whether it be you're thinking it or your parents are thinking about the complexity of the aged care system. Delta Smith, one of our senior advisors who's been with us more than 20 years, she has a particular skill set and does additional continuing professional development, particularly in that space.
Wow.
All three of the advisors, because self-managed super funds and property investment and super are a big part of what we do. Every year we go to the self-managed super fund conference, which is like a 3-day conference, highly technical. But these are super important things to maintain sort of relevance in the industry, and also to make sure you're abreast of the changes, because super changes every 5 minutes, unfortunately. Super changes, tax changes, property duties. There's changes that we just must be abreast of, and that it's one of the reasons why, as we grow as a business, like it's very hard to be a sole practitioner in financial planning today.
Yeah,
like trying to be
across all that.
It's impossible. It's actually impossible. And so what the benefit of scale gives us is that you can start to find a niche where, like Ben, for example, one of our other senior advisors, he comes from a farming family, so up in the Wimmera, and he's got great experience and understanding of agricultural businesses and succession plan. And so that's applied beautifully into our Golden Valley region where we've got a lot of farmers. So, but you have to be quite purposeful with that, because you know, there's lots of people out there that are generalists. But I think when people, even though financial planning more holistically, we look at lots and lots of different areas of someone's circumstance. Generally, if someone's coming to talk to us about buying a property in a self-managed super fund, they want to know that we've got expertise in SMSF. If someone's, you know, navigating the succession arrangement of their family farm from one generation to another, they want to know that we've dealt with succession arrangements, that we know about water rights in the Golden Valley. If someone is navigating their family member going into respite, then aged care, they want to understand that we've got expertise around accommodation deposits and the changes in aged care legislation that came in November. So, that one of the biggest challenges of, again, having those areas of expertise, I said that our business is a relationship-driven business. Yeah. The worry as you get scale is that you lose that belly-to-belly relationship with clients. So you can get me back on the podcast in 5 years' time, and I can, hopefully I'm still saying the same thing, that irrespective of how big the business has grown, that we continue to be relationship-focused first and foremost, and all of the skill sets that fall out of that will be a byproduct. We'll never lose our relationship focus with our clients, because it's our secret sauce.
No, that's awesome. And you've got a very young team as well, you know.
Interesting though, because it's both. So the average age, or the average tenure for our team is something like 15 years.
Wow.
But
yeah.
So so Delta's circa 20 plus years. Yep. Ben's Brooklyn's 20 plus years. Amy's nearly 15 years, Ben's nearly 15 years, but then the new ones, so our graduates, so Steve and Daniel and Hugh and Bridie, our up-and-coming graduates, they've been with us in between 1 month and 2 years.
Wow.
So, we've sort of bookended the business with the experience and also the up-and-coming generation.
That's it. And I guess, how do you instill that, you know, that connectivity and that relationship being so important when you're bringing the team up, because that's where it can get lost, right? You've got the big separation in generations too, but that's something you really have to actively work on.
Well, it is, and it's one of the things that if I look back at the things we didn't do well over the journey as we grew big, it was that we weren't prescriptive with what our values were, with what our the principles that we abide by in business, and it was more of an afterthought rather than the primary concern. So my view as I've grown the business over time, as we've grown the business over time, is that everything starts with culture. Everything starts with culture. Nothing else matters if you don't actually have a culture as a foundation to grow off. Now, the culture is something that, like, the people themselves in a business will help create, but I can actually help set the foundation stones of that. I can, after 25 years, we've got a pretty good sense of those core values of, connecting clients and protecting their wealth and leading for them. It is, it's about making sure that what's the best way of describing it? But sounding like a broken record, but repetition, like continuing to have the same message repeated just about in every opportunity you get, whether it be an interaction with a client and you've got a new associate advisor with you. I'm going to draw it back to the principles and the values of our business. Like, this is how we connected. Yeah. This is how we protected. This is how we led that client and how we're going to show them how to lead themselves. So it's got to be something that is forefront. It's got to be done deliberately. It's got to be done on purpose. It's got to be documented. Yeah. And I know you're a big fan of this.
No, I'm ticking a lot of boxes in my head.
Yeah. So, but it's something that you've
got to do.
Yeah, but it's something that historically we didn't do. We ran, and this is the difference between having a business, a family business that's informal and successful just by nature of, the individuals in it, taking that and then applying that at scale. And the challenge is to actually go from an informal business to a formal business, with more systems, processes, structure, and not lose the essence of who you are, like not lose the essence of knowing our clients, their family, they like when their birthdays are, when their wedding anniversary is. This week I would have sent, I can think of 3 or 4 messages where I was sending, because I know when my client's 25th wedding anniversary is.
Yeah.
Like I know when their kid's 21st birthday is, and that it is actually unusual. Like in our circles in financial services, some businesses are trying to keep up, but I think we don't do that as a marketing ploy. We do that because that's who we are.
It comes from here. It comes, it's within, yeah.
Yeah, it's who we are. It's what we do. It's embedded in us from day dot. And the challenge, as I said before, is to make sure that as the business grows, and it inevitably will, that we don't lose that essence. How do you do it? We have on rinse and repeat our values, our core values, the principles that we abide by, and then the next generation, that's what they carry forward. It's like our kids. Lead by example.
Yeah.
Even though I talk a lot sort of to our team, they need to see me acting the principles and the values that I preach.
Yeah,
they need to see it.
Exactly. Yeah.
If they do, then hopefully the Bridies, Daniels, Hughes, and Steves of the world, who are our next generation, that's what they'll do.
That's awesome, Jay. Awesome to speak to you, mate. And what's 2026 bringing for you? What have you got planned?
Someone asked me this question this morning, and I actually struggled to think. They said, "What about on the personal front and on the business front?" Well, on the personal front, it is I'm more focused on the milestones for my kids. I've got some kids that are sort of graduating through certain areas of their life. So pretty boring exciting for me, but boring for our listeners to hear about what is in plan for the Burke family. But on the business front, it continues to be growth, not just for growth's sake, but for the opportunity to see and speak to more family groups about advice and support we can provide them. So we are on the hunt for advisors. So I said before that advisors are hard to come across. So there's many fewer financial advisors today than there were even 12 months ago. And so anyone out there listening to this that's in financial planning land and wants to have a chat to me about potentially a role at Burke Britain. So we're in sort of M&A sort of discussions at the moment. So we're looking for opportunities for growth and growth that will sort of expand on what we've built over the course of the last 25 years. So very excited. It's going to be a great 2026, and I'm sure there'll be some surprises. There'll be some challenges along the way, but I'm pumped for growth for our team and for our clients.
That's awesome, Jay. Thanks so much for coming on, mate. And I must admit, you demystified financial planning for me today, which is like I did have that very narrow vision of what a financial planner would do, and also just I think gave me some confidence in the fact that these financial planners, and then there's financial planners, and it's amazing. So if people did listen to this and felt like they want to get in touch, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah, so you can check us out, Burke Britain Financial Partners online. I think we're on Instagram.
Definitely, you got to check your Instagram.
Yeah.
You guys have, out of all the businesses in Geelong, almost some of the best content out there. You do that really, really well.
Yeah, well, shout out to Job and his team at Recreate Australia. They do an amazing job. And again, we could go down another rabbit hole with that. But yes, you can follow us on Instagram. We're on YouTube. We're on all the social media platforms, Twitter and the like. You get a bit of a taste of who we are, so you can actually hear us talk and hear what we talk about. We've got a podcast, so Finances podcast, which you can find us on Spotify. That's a good place to listen. But ultimately, you can give us a call, or there's a link on the website if you want to book a time to chat with one of the advisors, and we'll check out whether you're in the right spot and make sure that you're pointed in the right direction. So thanks for having me on the podcast, mate. Really appreciate it. And yeah, I look forward to many more of these conversations in the future.
Absolutely, Jay. Thanks, mate.
Thanks, mate.